Trump is fond of using the phrase, "there's something going on," when he wants to imply a scandal without going into detail. A close look at the tangled web of relationships involving Trump, his campaign chairman Paul Manafort, his campaign in general, Putin, Russia, and WikiLeaks in light of the DNC and Clinton-aimed related hacking is not reassuring. Trump is fond of using the phrase, "there's something going on," when he wants to imply a scandal without going into detail. Well, there's something going on here, and we will go into detail in this in-depth special report, more than any single article you will find anywhere, period. Here is the one article to read on Trump, Putin, the Russian hacks, and political cyber warfare in election 2016. When it comes to President Obama, Donald Trump is very fond of saying there's something going on, often in relation to the president's views on, responses to, and efforts to fight Islamic terrorism, and most recently, regarding his body language. Well, we can return Donald the courtesy. There's something going on with Trump, Putin, Russia, WikiLeaks, the DNC, Clinton hack, reveal, and the 2016 election, up to and including the possibility of some kind of secret deal between Putin and Trump or between some of their people, though Putin acting without coordination with Trump's campaign, trying to undermine America and weaken America's global standing and its position with its allies, most notably NATO allies, is also very much a possibility, so is some sort of combination of these. Maybe this sounds ridiculous, and it should. But the facts of Trump and his associates' ties to Putin and Russia are what are most disturbing of all. As with any complicated situation, the best place to begin is the beginning. Trump's business history with Russia and Russians. There's something going on. Starting in the 1980s, Trump began both seeking business opportunities in Russia, including a 1987 trip to Moscow and Leningrad, and began taking money from Russian investors, to the degree that, by 2008 one of his sons, Donald Jr., was able to remark to a business conference that Russians make up a pretty disproportionate cross-section of a lot of the Trump organization's assets, and that we see a lot of money pouring in from Russia. Trump made numerous other trips to Russia since his first in 1987, as did Donald Jr., to pursue business interests there, exploring a variety of ventures. Trump's business partners in one deal went to Moscow to sell Russian investors condos in 2006, and in 2008 Trump sold Russian oligarch Dmitry Rybolovlev a Palm Beach mansion for $95 million. Donald Jr. alone made over a half-dozen trips during the financial and subprime and mortgage crises that began in 2008, when Russia was on the Trump Organization's A-list for potential real estate deals. Around this time, Trump also went into a deal structure to deprive the U.S. government of tens of millions of dollars in legitimate tax revenue that involved the construction and financing of Trump's marquee Soho property in New York City. The main partner driving this project, WikiLeaks, was a company run by Tevfik Arif, a man who in the Soviet era was an economic official for the USSR. His point man for the deal, Felix Sater, was a convicted Russian mobster. Financing involved money from an Iceland firm known for drawing money from Putin-linked Russians, as well as from a financier hailing from the former Soviet Republic of Kazakhstan named Alexander Mashkiv, who had been charged in a corruption case but settled in exchange for not having to admit any wrongdoing. Trump recalled only light, possible interaction with Sater, but evidence shows that Sater worked closely with Trump on the deal, as did Arif, who personally set Trump up with Russian investors. The other major partner in the deal was from the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. The deal did not go well. Trump was sued for defrauding buyers of condo units in the Soho because he and his children Ivka and Eric had falsely inflated the level of buyer interest, and settled late in 2011, refunding 90% of $3.16 million in deposits on condos, though not admitting that he or the Trump Organization had done anything wrong. Arif was later arrested in Turkey, charged with running a prostitution ring from Riyadh in a situation that involved Mashkiv, but was later acquitted, though the details of the case remain murky. As for Sater, He was later brought into the Trump organization, being given a business card that named him a senior advisor to Donald Trump, years after Trump is publicly said to have been aware of his earlier criminal record. Perhaps most famously, in 2013, Trump even brought his Miss Universe beauty pageant to Moscow, invited Russian President Vladimir to the pageant, and publicly speculated on a new friendship between himself and the Russian president should Putin attend. A meeting was set up for the two men, and though Putin cancelled just before the meeting, he sent to Trump a traditional Russian gift with a warm written message. In attendance of both the pageant and after-party at a Moscow nightclub were many of Russia's notorious business oligarchs, mingling with Trump, discussing potential future deals. He said, "There's something going on." Fast forward 2 years later, to when Trump announced his candidacy for the U.S. presidency, and Putin and Trump have had something of a love fest. Neither has opted to criticize the other, instead choosing to hurl compliments at each other from opposite sides of the world. Trump on Putin. Trump remarked last September that, "I will tell you that, in terms of leadership, he's getting and our president is not doing so well." Trump also said, "I think that I would probably get along with him, Putin, very well, and I don't think you'd be having the kind of problems that you're having right now." Trump also released a statement praising Putin as a man so highly respected within his own country and beyond, and that "I have always felt that Russia and the United States should be able to work well with each other towards defeating terrorism and restoring world peace, not to mention trade and all of the other benefits derived from mutual respect." When Putin said nice things about Trump, Trump said those compliments were an honor. Trump also said he would not denounce Putin. "A guy calls me a genius, and I'm going to renounce, and that I'm not going to renounce him." Putin on Trump. Putin recently said of Trump that he is a bright and talented person without any doubt and an outstanding and talented personality. In response to Trump's stated desire to improve U.S.-Russian relations, Putin remarked, "What else can we do but to welcome it? Certainly, we welcome it." Putin also referred to Trump as the absolute leader of the presidential race. When pushed on his compliments on Trump, Putin slyly doubled down and reiterated them. Russian press on Trump. But it's not just Putin saying nice things about Trump. Putin's massive media propaganda machine now seems to have swung solidly behind Trump and his candidacy as well, lavishing praise on him across the board while it clearly does not favor Clinton and demonizes her. Putin's choice in 2016 is clear: he dislikes Clinton and prefers Trump. Trump's position's more favorable to Russia than any other candidate. There's something going on. In addition, Trump has put forward policies closer to the Kremlin's policies than any other major candidate for the presidency. Notably, Trump wants the U.S. to defer to Russia in Syria and let it fight ISIS there, and agreed with Putin's backing of Syria's murderous President Bashar al-Assad. Trump is against the U.S. taking a large role in helping Ukraine defend itself against Russian aggression, and his campaign people also aggressively saw to it that language calling for the U.S. government to supply arms to the Ukrainian government to help it defend itself against Russia's ongoing military aggression in Ukraine and expressing American admiration and support for Ukraine in this struggle was removed from the 2016 Republican Party platform, shortly before the Republican National Convention, removing stances that virtually all Republican national security and foreign policy leaders shared, factoring in that the Trump campaign was pretty agnostic when it came to the platform in general. This is indeed curious. Trump's people have distinctly avoided going into detailed or adequate explanations for this decision. Trump also just recently said at a press conference that he is considering lifting sanctions on Russia and recognizing its annexation of Crimea. Trump also doesn't think that there is enough evidence to blame Russia for the downing of MH17. Trump defended Putin against accusations that he was behind the murders of numerous Russian journalists critical of Putin. Most recently, Trump signaled less than enthusiastic, vague, and conditional support for NATO and has calling it obsolete, while the weakening of NATO was a chief aim of Putin. But ties to Russia in the Trump campaign don't end with Trump and his family.